Hi, this is Joe Welsh from Core Restaurant Marketing. With me today, I'm going to have Scott Brunk, who is the president and CEO of FoodPRO. Scott will bring us up to date on some of the things as he sees them so that we can look at the marketplace and see what's happening down there. Scott, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing today?
Doing well, doing very well. Scott, the big question is, it's 1 year after COVID. What have you seen with your customers and how they've reacted to it and the impact that COVID's had on them?
Well, it's been a struggle for all of us. Restaurants probably hardest hit of anybody during this pandemic. But what we're seeing is those owners and those managers that were quick to adapt to the situation, meaning quickly getting online pickup orders, they survived pretty well. Also, we're seeing some of the owners and this is something that's always important to me, owners out front, right? Being involved with the customers. They were forced to do that during this. With staffing issues, doors closing, they were out front more. They get to learn more about their business in a lot of cases. And those that did that came out pretty successful. But it's definitely changed the landscape. And I think moving forward over the next 2 to 3 years, it's going to look different for all of us.
Oh, it's definitely going to be different. I was just mentioning to someone that I read an article how they're kind of comparing what happened with the pandemic in 1918, and then right after that was the Roaring '20s, and they're kind of saying it's almost going to be like the Roaring '20s moving forward. So it's going to be quite interesting.
Yes.
Scott, change versus independence. Have you noticed anything there, or has it been more difficult for independents than you think for chains?
Again, it goes back to the ownership. And I think a good owner and a well-run independent probably may have done better because, look, small independent can adapt quicker, right? And turn on a dime. Where the chains, they have a set-up model, and some of those got hurt. And you can see it in the industry. You've seen a lot of chains close their doors, a lot of bankruptcies. So I think it can depend on the owner and management. But I think in some cases, independents fare fairly well, surprisingly well. Going into it, I thought there'd be a lot more that would not make it. I think statistics showed there was going to be, I don't know, is it a third or more? And I think at this point, fortunately, that's not becoming true. A lot of them did survive and adapted quickly, and they're doing fairly well, considering everything.
That is important when you say considering everything. I remember seeing something that said that when the pandemic first came around, that the average independent had about 10 days worth of cash flow. And clearly, we know the chains have financial resources that are a little bit deeper. But that kind of goes into the next question of leadership. The role of leadership of an independent. You've mentioned a couple things like being out in front, but what are some other things that you've seen that I guess you might consider unique, or things that maybe they hadn't done before, leadership of an independent restaurant?
Right. Well, I think they learned quickly the carryout piece. A lot started to do it before the pandemic. But carryouts and online ordering and those things were huge, and they had to adapt to that. And the ones that did, are doing quite well. And in fact, I just talked to a restaurant owner the other day, and they're back to about 99% of what they were, and they still have ways to go. But the carryout business is now an extra thing. They didn't do it before, so now they're filling the restaurant up, but they're also continuing the carryout and the to-go orders, which they didn't do before. So they think coming out of this, and they added outdoor seating that they were forced to do, sort of. They're going to keep that. So they see a large growth. They're going to be 100 to 125% of what they were before because of the carry out and because of the outdoor seating. So, the ones, again, that adapted quickly on the other side of this, I think it's going to be huge growth, huge potential. And we're excited to see that.
How do you see leadership playing out, given the realities right now of finding labor? How do you see that playing out in terms of keeping labor as well?
Well, again, labor is going to be difficult over the next, we look at probably 6 to 9 months. It's going to be a challenge for labor. So again, they changed some things as far as the carry out. Maybe they shut pieces of the restaurant down. They got much more efficient. I think we all did as a distributor as well. We found ways to be more efficient. And I can't talk enough about the owners being out front again. Some of these owners were kind of we were rolling before COVID. All of us were making money, right? We're all kind of fat happy. When this happened, it made us look into our business a little more, a little closer. So these owners had to be out front, had to be there day to day. They made some changes, and so I think coming out, they're going to run much more efficient. I think they'll be much more profitable. So one that adapted, and while it was a struggle, and we're still struggling, we still have some time. I think we learned a lot, and I think those that survive, they're going to do very well and grow and thrive from this. But again, it's getting back in the business and seeing where you can control expenses and do things to be more efficient.
It's interesting because I'm seeing a lot of the same thing from the standpoint of there's a real need to get back to the basics. And being out front, touching the customers is part of the basics. So it's good that they're getting out there and talking to customers and building that bond again. But by the same time, technology is really starting to come to the forefront now in a lot of different ways. So my question is, are your customers, do you see them adapting as much as they should? Or is it one of those things where you had to do it, and if you didn't, you're gone by the wayside? I mean, what do you see?
Well, I see that for sure. Yeah, they had to adapt. Again, it was coming before the pandemic, the technology, online ordering, all these things that were there. Some customers started to do before it. Now they were forced to do these things. And again, they're going to be better off for it when they come out of this. All these resources and tools that they may not, because a lot of them were, some of these restaurant owners have been around for a while. I understand it. They were set in their ways, and we all do that. This forced the restaurants, forced us to change some things, to adapt and change the technology that's out there, and it's going to make us stronger and better. But it was forced in a lot of cases. You really had no choice. You couldn't just run the business, a full service restaurant with 200 seats in it, running that way all these years. You couldn't survive keeping it that way. So they had to adapt. Again, a lot did, and it's gonna change. And I think the ones that adapted, again, I say they're going to grow more. They're going to see in 2022, towards the end of 2021, they're going to see huge growth.
You've mentioned online ordering a couple of times. Do you think most restaurants are there yet, or there's some still lagging behind?
There's some still lagging behind, and that's where I think we need to get out in front. And that's where we think we set ourselves apart, where we go out and we want to help these restaurants and show them these tools that don't have the tools, because there are a lot out there that do not have it, may not know how to get to it. And that's where FoodPRO comes in and says, look, we want to be kind of like your corporate office. The chains have a lot of advantages because menu design, pricing, marketing. There's a lot of tools out there that if you're a chain franchisee, they give you that stuff, right? You just have it at your plate. You got to worry about just front of the house, take care of the customers. Well, as an independent owner, you got to do all those things and be out front of the customer. And so we're trying to find ways at FoodPRO to go to the independent and say, look, you don't have the time to do all these things in the back of the house like these chains do. So we bring that to you. We say, look, we're your corporate office. Marketing, menu design, a lot of things you may not understand. Our team can bring that to you and help you grow your business. And boy, no time better than right now, coming out of this pandemic. The ones that didn't quite grasp it, we're saying, look, guys, we can help you. Our thing is we want to see the independent restaurant grow and be successful. It got us here. We're almost 90 years old now. They got us to where we are today. And it's our responsibility now to help them. This is a time of need for those restaurants. And we believe that we can actually help and make a difference. And it's not just me that says that. It's our whole staff here, all of our salespeople. We don't hire salespeople that are salespeople per se. It's more of a consultant, meaning a lot of our people never been in the sales world, but they've been in the restaurant industry, right? They understand the front of the house, the back of the house, how things actually work. And that's where the difference is. Not just selling French fries. To me, just selling French fries is boring. I want to see these restaurants grow and thrive.
Well, it's a good point. I mean, I know yesterday I had a conversation with someone who doesn't have online ordering, and somehow or another they got through this, okay? But we had the conversation about online ordering, and what popped up into his conversation was, well, yeah, there's an industrial park down the road from me. He said online ordering would be great for those people. I think all of this and the technology and everything come together is making them think outside the box more, as we said earlier, that they've got to find ways. And he's looking at this now as, wow, that's a whole other piece of business that's all plus business for me that I never even thought of before, or how could I even get to it? So technology is going to change the game. With all that said, the program that we have with RAM here, it's changing strategies for changing times. How do you see that impacting restaurant owners as well as foods distributors moving forward?
As far as what? Say that again. Sorry.
Well, the whole program with changing strategies and changing times,
Yes.
it's got to impact restaurants, but also impacts food distributors and make you think differently too.
Right.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, certainly for the restaurants, they'll have to adapt and change for what has happened. And again, that's why we had this model before we went into the pandemic about us being a resource for these restaurants. Because I go back to the fact that these restaurant owners, they got in the business, maybe they love food or they just want to own a restaurant. But a lot of them, there's so much goes into running a restaurant and the technology today, the online order today. And by the way, it doesn't just change at one time. Every month something's changing, right? You know that it's
Yeah.
changing all the time. And what happens is they get buried in the day to day in the back of the house in the restaurant, cooking or whatever, looking at invoices from all these different distributors, and they don't have time to look at the big picture. And that's where I think us as a distributor really need to help them in that area. And so that's what we're doing internally is making sure we're finding ways, not just selling French fries, but what tools can we bring to them to help them grow and be successful? Because it is about making money. At the end of the day, we're all in this business to make money, right? To make a living. So what can we do to help them be more successful? And it's by showing them these tools that are out there that they don't have time to look for. And our team of experts here can go out and show them things that they may not be aware of, and that will make a difference. And if we don't do that as a distributor, be good, really good partners with the restaurants. There's going to be a lot that struggle, and I think that's why I say we went away from salespeople per se and more of a consultants. And people's tried over the years, but now it's time to actually do it and go out and find a way to help these restaurants be successful. And again, it's not just selling French fries. That's part of the business. We got to go out and show and sample, but it's getting down into the books, getting down to the P&Ls. Look, there's a lot to running a restaurant, a lot of moving parts, and we can be a resource to help them with those moving parts. So they be on whatever's next thing in the technology world, we can bring it to them and say, hey, this is something maybe you're not aware of. We can help you with that.
Yeah. Scott, you mentioned a couple of times it's a day-to-day business, and each day is a new day. But looking into the future, a year from today, what do you think it looks like?
Well, I think one thing that's going to be really popular, I think, is the quick service. I think the large, not to say there won't be any around, there will be some, but the large dining room of 500 people in a building, they're going to be the ones that have the biggest struggle. So I think the quick serve, the smaller facilities to go items, the new things come out is these ghost kitchens where they're building kitchens that just service for carry out, which is also very smart because let's face it, the cost of a building, there's a large expense there. So if I can eliminate the brick and mortar and I can have a few seats and do carry out, my costs can be reduced. And people today also, it's everything quick. We don't like sitting around much anymore. So we want something fresh. I think there's going to be a lot more healthier foods out there. So I think fresh products are going to be important to the consumer, and they want it quick. They want to get in and out. And I think that's going to be, and all those concepts did well during this pandemic, and they're going to do well after. So I think it'll change over the years. Now, I think it'll come back. The sitting down a fine dining restaurant, and still people want to experience that, and that'll come back. But that'll be back slower and very difficult to run. You really, with those type restaurants, you're going to need a lot of help and support to make it be successful. So. Yeah, it's going to be neat to see the next 2, 3, 4 years to see what happens. But I do think there's going to be a resurgence, and a lot of restaurants that didn't make it, like I said, someone's going to buy those restaurants. Someone's going to come in. Someone's going to have a concept, and it's changing quickly, and we're excited. And whatever changes happen, we're going to adapt to the distributor to make sure we can meet the needs of all these different concepts. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, it's going to be quite an interesting future. I think the things that I've seen have talked about for the next year and into the first quarter of next year, restaurants can expect to see a 30% plus growth over last year. Of course, you're up against low numbers. Then it's going to get more difficult again. And then it's down to the basics. How do you do the right things right and all that kind of thing? So the next year looks like a very good year, but there's going to be some hurdles you got to overcome. And I think the biggest one I see is going to be labor right now. So
yeah, labor and the supply chain. We're talking to our customers, and I think people understand it out there, but it is a struggle right now. And if you think about it, the restaurant business, especially in our area, the DC Baltimore area, springtime, everything goes up about 20% normally, naturally, right? Every year you have the winter, you have the little lull, and then things pick back up. So we not only are going to springtime, so outdoor dining is picking up, but you have a 20% increase. Then on top of that, you have the COVID restrictions starting to come off. So you're going to see huge growth quickly. Not quite as quick as it was turned off, but pretty quick. And we're seeing it now. The last 3 to 4 weeks, we've had major upticks. We're 120% over last year. Of course, it was a slow number, but that's a big number. So with that, the manufacturers and the supply chain is not keeping up. And some of the reason is they don't know what's going to happen either. This thing keeps changing, so they don't want too much inventory. So that's one thing. The other thing is transportation, getting jobs is struggling with trucks, and then getting labor to come back on the lines. So assembly lines, and they got to make the product, right? So getting work to come back, or COVID restrictions. In some states, you still can't have the plant fully functional, right? You have 50% capacity, yet we're getting back to 100% of the demand. So the supply chain is not coming back on as quick as the demand. And that's across all industries, by the way. I'm sure you've seen it.
Yeah.
So I think over the next 6 months, that is going to be, to me, the biggest struggle for restaurants, to make sure they're getting, and distributors, to get what we need to get to the restaurants. So we're finally getting back to growth, and now we need the product, right? And that's going to be a struggle. A big struggle is getting the product in their hands. So you got to get creative, and maybe change the menu, find out what's coming down the road, and certainly be able to adapt the menu quickly, because items are going to go away. And when they go, supply and demand, you're going to have prices go through the roof. Wings right now, perfect example. You can't get wings. That's going to hit other areas as well. Can't get ketchup. Who ever thought you couldn't get ketchup?
Wow.
That's happening right now. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be a challenge, but those that are paying attention, and if we can help those restaurants, they'll get through this. And boy, they'll come out the other side really strong.
Good. Scott, this has been great insights from your side of the desk as to what the impact is on restaurants, because I would bet that most restaurants never even think about what's the distributor side. What are they going through? So I think it's been very helpful for them to understand. Right. All they tend to do is just say, darn, where's my wings? So anyway, I wish to thank you for that and your time today. It's been very helpful to the program here and what we're trying to do. So I appreciate it. And I know you're going to have a great year. So looking forward to keeping up with you. Okay.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Take care.
Bye.